as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Gaville's Inside HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Watts and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
I'm returning to Clinton Parish, and Tampa's my community. I grew up here, went to school here, and my wife and I make our home here. What makes Tampa special are its people. So when I represent someone injured in my community, it's personal. Call my office and speak to a real lawyer and not some referral service. I will fight the insurance companies to get the settlement that you deserve. At the law office of Clinton Parish, we take the pain out of being heard.
Shop Velvet Online Women's Boutique to spice up your closet with trendy, unique looks. We have fashionable and chic looks at very affordable prices. Velvet Boutique offers free shipping all year long on all orders. Shop online at www.melvetboutique.com. That's www.melvetboutique.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram. Shop Velvet Online Women's Boutique.
So you're a philosopher? Yes, 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 yes.
This is Thoughts and Moments. Hey, it's your boy Sille Thoughts, the Prince of Petty.
And I'm Joy, also known as Joyride. I provide the moments to make your life better.
We're here weekly to provide the latest news, trending topics, and edutainment.
We will engage, entertain, and inform, but we keep it real and we keep it fun.
So whether you're riding in these streets or podcast surfing with your peeps, this is a show you don't want to miss.
Every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And guess what? It's 5 p.m., so let's go.
Go. Hey, it is your boy Sille Thoughts, and it is 5 p.m. on Thursday, so you know it's time for your favorite talk show. That's Thoughts and Moments right here on the Jericho Broadcast Network. As you see, we've got our spectacles on because we have an intellectual show today. Joyride, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Glad to be here. Good to see you, Ellis, and good to be in the building. I'm really excited for our talk today. I'm excited to, one, get away from the constant bombardment of what is happening in the White House and get into something that actually I think is more is a more serious topic, believe it or not. And so I'm happy to be here. And so I'll couch what we're talking about today in a moment, but I wanted to go ahead and introduce our esteemed guest. So yes. The man that you see before you is Dr. Fritz Gillette, and he is here as a psychologist to talk to us about the topic at hand. So normally we do a lot of heavy stuff at the beginning. We talk about COVID, we talk about the president. We're not doing that today. We're getting right into it because I really want to spend as much time on this topic as we can. So for those
if you want to learn about COVID, we just did, y'all know I work for blackdoctor.org, and we just did a conversation with Dr. Fauci that we aired on our Facebook page on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to talk about COVID, you want to learn about COVID, you want to hear directly from Dr. Fauci talking to our community, go to blackdoctor.org and learn all you want. Today, it's about Dr. Gillette, and we're going to talk about this topic that we have tonight. There's other doctors besides Dr. Fauci, just for the record, just trying to let y'all know. I know it's crazy, but there's other doctors out there in the world. So this show actually, just to give the backstory, I was, kind of doodling, surfing through Instagram, like wasting time like most of us do from time to time. And I came across this video of Charlamagne the Guy talking to Jasmine Sullivan. And Jasmine Sullivan was kind of she wasn't throwing one of her girlfriends on the bus. She was talking about the reality of how sometimes women, and I'm paraphrasing, so don't kill me on this, but sometimes women that are promiscuous aren't really doing it for sex. They're searching for something else. And she was talking about her friends and using sex, especially she was talking about color complex that some Black women may have if you're on a darker hue, and they find that their value is in their ability in their sex. And that's how they see their value in their life. And so I sent it to Joy because we both are in that D&I space and really are concerned about those issues. And so therefore I said, hey, I think this would be a great topic. What do you think about this for the show? And she was like, yes. And then she goes through her extensive Rolodex. It was like, I've got a guest for the show. And so Bam, bam. That's how we got it. That's how we got Dr. Gillette here. And so really we wanted to, and I want to explore both sides, not just the side of women. I think we need to the side of men, and men becoming, for lack of a better term, hoish, feeling like they have to collect a lot of women, put a lot of notches on the belt, whatever colloquialism you want to use, in terms of getting their value in that and being a stud, so to speak, being a player, I guess in Black vernacular, so to speak. And so that's how, we, and I'm saying we in a male sense, get our value. So women might get their value by being promiscuous. And it is a male version of promiscuous, but the way society is kind of patriarchal in nature, we tend to celebrate men that do it, and we tend to denigrate women that do it. Unless you're a Kardashian, then you can celebrate it.
Right. Even the language that you just used, a male version of promiscuous, implies that promiscuity is a female trait. And so we don't even catch ourselves. I was about to we catch ourselves when we say that type of thing. Promiscuity is gender neutral. Anybody can be out there hoeing, but we do tend to take the same behavior and put it as a negative on women. But matter of fact, I'm getting texts from not only our chat room, but from my friends that I've sent this to, and they're like, men have this trouble too. A lot of people define themselves by or feel that there is some tie between their sexual prowess and their self-esteem. And that's what we're talking about.
Yes. Sex and self-esteem is the topic today. And that's why we brought an expert on, because we can talk to you about our proclivities in the past. So we wanted somebody to be able to break it down and talk about the psychology of that self-esteem, and how is it indicative of a lower self-esteem? I would say yes, but is it indicative of, let me ask you the first question, Dr. Gillette, we got you here. Is promiscuity an extension of a lower self-esteem?
Oh, we don't have enough time. Let me just get that started. I've worked with a variety of people. Promiscuity can be the origin of a lot of different things, from early trauma, daddy issues, mommy issues, early trauma experiences in relationships. What I can tell you is that anybody that is accessorizing or gathering things to prop up their self-esteem most likely has issues with self-esteem.
I love the words you use, accessorizing.
Yeah, I'm gonna write that down. We got smart people. I write that stuff down when I hear stuff.
You hear me say this later. But I think that's a good point. It's not necessarily your main sense of self. It's not the center of your ego, but it absolutely is, propping it up, or something you add to augment yourself, like a necklace, makeup, etc. Right?
That's right. So if we can put on accessories to augment features and talents and aspects of our beauty, of our phenotype, of our appearance. But if we need those things to feel whole, then we should be talking to somebody. We should be working through that, because if we need some external prop to prop us up, then we got some work to do.
And much like props or anything like that, they have a shelf life, right? So at some point, you're going to have to get another one, and maybe that's how promiscuity happens, is that person that makes you feel good for that period of time that runs out, because there is that underlying need for that propping up, and that person might not do it anymore. So I got to go get another one, and then that cycle repeats itself. This is kind of a long-winded question. Are we on the right path? And we're talking about that cycle repeating itself. Okay, you prop me up for maybe a week or two, maybe a month, but I got to get somebody else, because that feeling of being unfulfilled comes back at a certain point in time, and you search for the next thing to try to pop you up. And then that could be a succession of men or women, depending upon your orientation. A succession of men and women being able. Okay, that makes sense.
Exactly, because people get into. We do it with objects. I've got a gold chain that I'm wearing, and it feels good to wear it, and I feel kind of extra when I'm wearing it. But it was also given to me by someone that means a lot to me.
Right.
And so I carry it and I wear it, and it's a symbol of that connection. Now, if I'm going out to just buy something else to prop me up, to make me feel good, to make me feel connected, we got to look at how long that lasts. How many of us go out and we buy something, we feel really good, shiny and new. I feel complete. I got to get it. And then we get it.
Are you talking about my shoe addiction, Doc? Are you really talking about my shoe addiction right now?
And
We're
then
talking about sex and self-esteem. That was the shoe addiction.
You know what? You do shoes, but you make a good point, because like when you talked about things that people do to make themselves feel good, with me, it's the lips. Like I am a big proponent. Like if I feel like I'm doing it, if I'm cute, there's going to be some lipstick on, and that's my thing. Because I'm not really a big jewelry person, but I do remember all through high school, I had a chain that I wore every day religiously. And for me, like from the retail therapy standpoint, it is video games. You know, I would drop $59.99 on a video game in a minute and play through it and get that euphoria of I did something and, you know, I succeeded in it. And then next one. And so it becomes that, you know, that high that I'm looking for to make myself feel good. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, I ask, people have come to me because they feel maybe I'm a little too much. Maybe I do have an addiction. Maybe I'm going from relationship to relationship, being a serial this, serial that. And we do explore. There's no one answer for all of that. A lot of times it's an examination of the self, examination of what's in your life, what things mean to you, and whether they are fulfilling to you. And sure, if something you get something and you really feel fulfilled by it, and you're not looking for a new one at the next turn of the corner, then probably it's something deeper. But if it's getting old real quick, then you're trying to actually fill a bucket with a hole in it, and it's going to need filling again and again and again.
Yeah, and I think that's how people become dissatisfied. You know, the sad thing is when we're, you know, kind of clearing out some things, I found shoes I hadn't even worn, right? And so that was sad. I was like, literally, I was like, I haven't worn these, and I was, you know, consign them, but they were just in there, and I bought them a while ago. But it was just that thing. But I guess the next question is, where's that line that it becomes kind of a weird hobby kind of thing to an obsession to where it could become pathological? Because I know there's a progression, and how do you stop yourself on that path? How do you recognize those behaviors if you're going that path from, oh, I just like shoes to, I got to Marcos, you know. Kind of thing.
So we go from promiscuity to shoes. Okay, how many shoes is too many shoes?
It's a Freudian object, Doc. It's a Freudian object.
I know. And with most things I look at, I mean, I've worked with people who are addicted to a whole lot of things. You'd be surprised, and I don't want to even start naming them because some of them are things that people would be outed for. But nonetheless, when does it become pathological? When the pursuit of the object, of the need to continue to get that thing, starts to cost us more than we can afford. We're not paying our bills because we've gotten too much of it, or we're not going out because of it. It's getting in the way of us living a healthy and fulfilling life.
It's like
of the need to continue.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So we're gonna get off the metaphors, and we're gonna go right into we're gonna start talking about sex. Okay, shoes are okay, but the most they can do is stink. When you start talking about sex, you open up a whole other can of worms where it could be some pregnancy, you could have some STDs, got stalkers. There's a whole lot of other problems that can come with promiscuity that you won't get with shoes other than just overspending. So,
it can put you in a weird mind space. You know, you mentioned earlier, specifically around that discussion between Charlemagne and what was the young lady's name? I forget. Jasmine Sullivan.
Jasmine Sullivan. Yep.
Yeah, between Charlemagne and Jasmine, and they were talking about specifically for women and the colorism associated with self-esteem, where a lot of women who are of darker skin color may feel, or society may make them feel less attractive, and so there's sometimes a desire to prop up that feeling with sex. But I would tell you that there's a weight issue as well, and I'm speaking from experience, being always, you know, the fat kid, or being told I was fat. Because I look back at my high school pictures, like if I had that body now, but when I was in high school, I was fat and, you know, always chubby, always big boned, stout, things people would call me. And I didn't feel attractive at all. I didn't think I was pretty until I was 27 years old. I remember the day and the moment when I recognized it. And it was a shock to me.
Wow.
I had long since lost my virginity. Traded it. Well, I won't say traded. I was in love with my first love, but I was young, and I felt that that's what I should do. because that's what society told me you're supposed to do. You're supposed to give this to a guy because you love him. So this is his now. I don't regret it as much as most women may regret their first, etc. We're still friends, which I think has led to me being relatively healthy mentally going forward. We're still really good friends, but there was a time where I was excited that somebody wanted to be with me. And I've heard this before from different guys as they joke, say you need to catch them before they find out they fine. You know, like that type of thing. Catch them before they know they lock them down. And so that idea has some basis of truth in it when you have a woman, regardless of what she looks like. There are plenty of women that we may see as beautiful that don't see themselves that way, and it damages their self-esteem. Halle Berry comes to mind with that. And what's funny is now we ascribe all of this, crazy, people call her, she's not, but no. Just because of the level of self-esteem she had when she was in bad relationships, so anybody can fall victim to it. But I do think that it started early with me. My dad used to call me fat, and it took me until I was 20 years old to get it. He thought it was funny, which is why I'm so big on microaggressions now and bullying and stuff now, because I lived that for 17 years, 30 some odd years in my family's house. But, parents don't understand the kind of damage that they do with that. But the way you grow up, the way you are taught to see yourself by people that you think have the authority to tell you who you are, absolutely will shape, how you show up in the world later as damaged, low self-esteem, regardless of what you look like.
I've worked with a number of people who have come to me. Maybe they're coming to me to be the therapist to help them on this makeover of self, and they do recognize that they've got issues with their self-esteem. And in part of their work, they'll tell me about how they're going to lose weight so that they can be more attractive. And I know if they say to me they need to lose weight in order to feel more attractive, fine. I'm not a physical trainer. They can go off and do that. But I immediately start working on the way that they see themselves. And long before they lose weight, if I can get them to see themselves as more beautiful, they will be perceived as more beautiful, even before they lose a pound. That the way that you see yourself, the way that you look at yourself, the way you hold yourself. I think there was a scene in a movie where in Two Can Play That Game, there was a principal character that said, I know I'm beautiful. And she was a big woman. And when she just stood up and said it that way, I remember Hollywood made her look good. She looked amazing when she was in that position. And I remind people of that.
Talking about it was Monique in Two Can Play That Game. Yeah, I remember that. I definitely remember that.
Yes. And I've had many a client who were trying to get others to perceive them in other ways, and we weren't able to change perception until they were able to hold themselves and look at themselves and actually get in touch with the beauty that was there before they lost a pound.
Doc, one of the things that I think that we have to, and for our audience, I think it's good to point out is that perception, the external perception, cannot overwrite the internal noise.
Exactly.
Right. And so I'll give you a personal example. So I've got two children. I got my son, and he's very successful in sports. Smart kid, did well in school, plays all kinds of sports. Everybody wants Cameron on their team. Well, I always noticed there was something that was just kind of holding him back. And I was like, what is it? But I also know that I've always coached him and I've always pushed him really hard. And as a coach, you're always hypercritical, but I'm also a dad. And so one day I started realizing this, and I said, you know what? So we're in the car, and I opened up the mirror behind the flap, and I said, look at yourself. And I want you to say this out loud. I am a good player. And when he said it, he started crying. And it was because he hadn't had it on his spirit, right? And so that's when I realized, it's like, oh, even though people were telling him how good he was and everybody wanted him to play for him and blah, 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 it wasn't in his spirit, because it wasn't about what everybody else was saying. It was about how I was coaching him and how I was criticizing his play. And, every little thing. We won the game, and, we on that one, you could have done a little bit better and whatever. And that was seeping into him. And I realized I had to stop that and really try to pour more into him, because if you get that negative script in your life, it's hard to get it out.
Exactly. That negative script is that internal voice that plays over and over again. And most people are not checking it. on the flip side of things, I remembered my office in Manhattan was near the fashion district, and there were times where I would have runway models as my clients, and I was the first person to ever ask them how they see themselves. And so many of them completely saw themselves as unattractive, unsexy, ugly, what have you. And no matter what the world said to them, they were on a runway. The world was saying, you're beautiful, we're taking pictures of you, you're a runway model. No matter what you say, no matter what the world says about you, what you say about yourself has the most power over how the world is going to perceive you. Yes, the world has stereotypical ways of viewing beauty and viewing what's attractive, but you have a lot of influence of that as well.
Yeah.
And so by getting your son to acknowledge, by finding out your son's perception of himself wasn't exactly where it should be,
Right.
you gave him an opportunity to kind of work on that, and you worked on that with him.
Yeah. That was a kind of a turnaround, and I was kicking myself, but I understood it because I had that same, in a different way from my own growing up, and getting that script that says you're not good enough. And even in all of his successes, somehow he got that script that he wasn't good enough. And I was like, no, you absolutely are. We could stop right now. And so now I've got to try to overwrite that script. I got opportunity. Thankfully, I was able to recognize it. And you got to overwrite that script because it could be damaging to someone long term, and that could lead to promiscuity.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I just did a seminar this morning about imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome for another company. And the discussion was around that voice in your head that says, I'm not good enough. I don't really deserve this. Which pushes people to sometimes work 2 and 3 times harder than they need to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that they are good enough. Same thing with, physical attraction. I'm going to go have a lot more sex or have sex with anybody that wants to, because I continue to prove to myself that I'm worthy of love. All of that goes hand in hand, but it all comes back to, again, the messages you get when you're younger, And I would say this for parents, I think, as you just talked about this, Ellis, don't feed that voice in your kid's head that says, I'm not good enough. They don't need no more fuel. So how do we stop that? We talk about generational trauma. A lot of us think of abuse and damage, et cetera, unsafe environments, but it can also be continual erosion of self-esteem. And because I'm looking at some of the statements from one of our longtime viewers, John B. Riley, and he says he was picked on by his father and his brothers for being a virgin, and his wife was picked on for her size, and so this is family that's supposed to love you. If the people that love you tell you you're not good enough, what else are you supposed to believe? It
doesn't matter what the world says. Go ahead, Doctor.
Right. I was going to say that's why it's important to surround yourselves with people that are positive, goal-oriented, moving forward, positive attitude about self, because if you're around people that are negative, they're going to be taking you down. And if those messages that you learned in childhood are supported by the people you're surrounding yourself with, check that, because you don't want to keep going forward in that kind of future where the people around you are supporting the negative images of yourself that you may have. And so you started the hour by talking about promiscuity. A lot of times people are around people like that, or attracted to people like that, or friends with people like that. And I work with people who are slowly revising their social set because they're recognizing that they've actually built a world around them that supports a negative narrative that they learned in childhood.
We create the world that we want, that of how we see ourselves, right?
Exactly.
So if you see yourself as in a negative light, even though unconsciously you're building a negative world, and you start sabotaging, right? Successes. So you think about people that are really overachievers and people that are underachievers. They may have that same script in their head. Overachievers are trying to negate it, and underachievers are trying to fulfill it, right? But they're still on that same script of saying you're not good enough, you're not doing enough, and they got it from somewhere. And it might be a parent, a friend, whatever. They got it from somewhere at a point in life.
And if you've found yourself in a social set where you have to be the baller, you have to be the one that's having it all hang out there, and there's a fear that if you actually stop doing that, those people around you are not going to respect you or accept you. You might have just found out that these are not your friends.
Right. And that can be hard to believe sometimes, you know, especially if you've had them around you for a long time. They're acquaintances and friends of longevity. We've been friends since middle school, but they've been eroding your self-esteem since middle school. And sometimes you got to.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny, like what you're talking about kind of describes a portion of my college experience, you know, and it was unintentional. But it was, you know, in terms of that persona, but you do get this kind of self-esteem. You get this superficial boost to your self-esteem by knowing a lot of people wanting to be around you, a lot of people liking you. And so therefore you're okay with that because it's also protective. You don't have to open up. You don't have to be vulnerable. You don't have to share because all they want is that fun, superficial, you know, hit it and quit it kind of personality, and that's fun. But you realize that it's empty, and over time, you keep replaying that out. Over time, it becomes very, very empty, and so you've got to be courageous enough. I guess that's the word. Courageous enough to say, "I'm going to be who I am, and I'm going to show you all who I am, whether despite the fear of rejection."
If you are looking, there are others out there who might support a healthier way of being. I was just remembering, for this is somewhat unrelated but related. I remember I was in high school. I was a freshman in high school, and there was a section on the property of the high school where you were allowed to smoke. Now, I was a nerd. I didn't know it at the time, but I was a nerd. And I remember one day I was hanging out with some of the kids, and they invited me to go to the section on the high school grounds where you could go and smoke. And I remember going there, and they handed me a cigarette, and I was hanging out with the guys, and I felt so cool. I was with the in crowd. And I remember later I was leaving to get on the bus, and one of the kids from the group I was hanging out with, that was my tribe, the nerds, looked at me and said, "It's not you, Fritz. It's not you."
That's a friend.
That's a friend.
That's a
I
friend.
remember that. I remember that moment from today. That was the last moment I hung out with that crew at the they call it the Rock, where you smoke. And I remember from then on, I was with my crowd, you know, which was a combination of all kinds of different kids, but it pulled me forward, and I could have been pulled downward. And a lot of us have built lives. I've worked with people who have built lives, relationships they're married to, they're breaking up with, they're in relationships with people that have cultivated their negative slide and their negative side. And I don't know if we're getting too deep here because I don't want to depress anybody. If you're outing yourself and going, "Oh my God, that's me."
If I start crying, don't stop. It's part of the show. It's what I signed up for.
But I think it's really important if we're going to kind of talk about promiscuity, or really it's at its core, it's about self-esteem. And we really got to look at the story that we're telling ourselves, about our life and our worth. And we can slowly work on that. We can slowly rework that. And we can slowly put that in a direction that is more positive and more productive. And when people come to me and they're like, "I'm making these decisions," I go, "Let's look at it together. Let's figure this out together." And it can work out very well for you if you do that work. And that's the work you got to do.
That's a good point. And if you're just joining us, I got to see some more people joining us, that we are talking to Dr. Fritz Gillette, and he is a psychologist, and we're talking about sex and self-esteem. I believe our producer has reached out and said he has the clip. He has the video. So we're going to play the video. We're going to play the video. So Roy, if you're hearing, we're going to play the video clip that sparked this discussion.
I think you were talking about one of your friends, and you said that she said she was sleeping with men to make herself feel worthy. Is that what you said?
No, I didn't say that. I said that she's learned. Okay, I'll get candid with you. Being a brown skinned girl, a lot of the times you don't feel like the way you look is considered beautiful. And you can add on to that, being a brown skin girl, being fat, anything that's deemed you know what I'm saying? It's not the standard of beauty. So as you're growing up, I would assume, because this is her tale, and you would have to hear it and figure out how you feel. But I would assume that you try to figure out how to feel beautiful. And for her, she figured out that sex was a way that made men look at her as being worthy. Not that she sleeps with a lot of men and that makes her feel worthy, but it makes men look at her and makes her feel like she is. So,
believe it or not, that's how men feel too. I feel like, men only do that to feed their ego. And a lot of times it's because we have wounded ego and we're hurt and we're dealing with our own traumas, and we do things to make ourselves feel worthy. We got to have the fly car or the sneakers or the flyest clothes, or sleep with a whole bunch of different women. So I think it's the same thing. When you see a dude that's a hoe, it's the same thing.
I would agree. And that's what I'm saying. I mean, you hear this project, and what I wanted to do is to make you think about like why you do certain things and then attack that. Like, look at that part. Like, why am I doing this? Why do I do? If you love it and it makes you feel good, and you then rock out, keep doing it. But if you look at it and you say, you know what, that's not right. That started somewhere else. And that place, the place that it started is what I need to address. Then you address that. So it's just about self-reflection.
So you watch that, Dr. Gillette. What are your media thoughts?
I'm glad I heard it all the way toward the end there when she says, asking the question why. I don't, not from a judgmental standpoint of view, I don't ask people why you're doing that. But what I try to get them engaged in is a process by which they start to understand the inner motivations around it. They start to ask themselves the question why, and go deep. It's not just a question of why logically, why emotionally, what happened to you, how is it serving you, how does that work, tell me how you feel. We get into that because when we all start to examine, believe me, I work with a lot of people around too many shoes, by the way, and many of them, it's working for them. So you're safe, okay? You're safe. But there are other instances where they're not safe because it's not functional. There's a dysfunction to it, and it's prohibiting their lives. They're hurting themselves in a particular kind of way. But I can't tell them that. No one can. No one can judge you that way. But if I can get you into a process by which you are thinking, rethinking, feeling, and feeling, and going deep, going into the soul, going deep, what almost always happens is the person eventually has their own personal epiphany, and they make the nice change, the little incremental changes that they need to make to do the right thing for themselves.
Absolutely. Being a life coach myself, I'm not as well versed. I maybe don't go as deep as you do, but I try that with my clients as well. Like, I can't tell you, what to do. I can show you. I can hold a mirror up for you so you can see what I'm seeing, maybe see it for the first time, and hopefully, get a better sense of self-awareness. Self-awareness is worth its weight in gold. To be able to know yourself, understand your motivations, it's harder than it sounds, but
that's
you
beautiful.
Yeah,
that self-awareness. These gray hairs are worth it if I got them. Developing the wisdom and the self-awareness, and we all can develop that self-awareness by doing the work, by looking in the mirror. Joy, exactly. Make the person look in the mirror, ask themselves those questions, have them go deep dive and explore. Amazing what you'll find.
Well, I don't, I know it's been attributed. I think it was Socrates that know thyself. Goes all the way back. So we're talking centuries ago, and we're still in that process, and people are still building careers off trying to help people understand themselves. And so I do think that, one of the hardest things to do, especially in your profession, I'm not going to speak for your profession. I mean, you do it. I did it very short period of time, but is getting that insight, right?
Yeah.
And then getting the action on top of that, right? So there's a lot of people I know that sometimes I talk to friends and they can tell you, oh, well, and they can tell you why they do stuff, but they can't stop doing it. And so how do we get them to make that step, that uncomfortable step from insight to action?
Ooh. Okay. If we were in
the tough questions here, Doc. We can't.
I'm almost like, go preach. Okay. So I usually in my office, I have a model of the brain and I pull it out and I show people and I go, a lot of the work we think we're doing is right up here in the frontal lobe, in the thinking part of the brain. But most of us know that smoking is bad for us. Most of us know that guy is bad for us. That gal is bad for us. Most of us know a whole lot of things that's bad for us, but we only know it over here. But this is why I'm talking about going deep. So when we go to the central part of the brain, well, what's the emotions doing? And we go into our body, and what's our body doing?
Right.
Most of us try to make changes just by thinking, when the changes need to go deeper. We need to tap into those deeper places. So when you asked your son that question, and you probably did it like a good therapist, by the way, therapist dad / dad, and you probably invited him a little bit into the feeling, and that's where the tear came from. It didn't come from the thinking; it came from the feeling, and that's how you hit gold. Because if it starts to come from the body, then we have a good chance. People don't change just because they think; they change because they feel. That's why we have so much social injustice in this world, because a whole lot of people don't feel a whole lot of stuff. They know it's wrong.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until viral videos and enough of a pandemic happened until they were feeling something, and then things changed. So when we want to make an act change, we got to get people to feel.
I remember that from my days in sales. As a matter of fact, we talked about, the decision-making process. Everybody loves to say that they analyzed the data and they made an educated, objective decision. But most decisions come from that amygdala, right? It's all how you feel. So you want to buy the car because it's shiny and red. But what is it? J.D. Warner and Associates, and the safety ratings and et cetera. But you really want it because it's shiny and red. And that's when you find the data to back up what you wanted to do. And so it's an emotional decision.
Yeah.
On all the levels that really count. But we can always make it sound clinical. And so when people tell me I deal in facts, not emotions, no, you don't.
Oh. Yeah. So that's why I like sometimes talking to you, Joy, because sometimes you tell these stories, you create imagery that makes people feel. That's why I'm like, damn, drop the mic. Because when you do that, I know when you're doing your corporate work, that's what you do. And people are then blown away. They're not blown away because what you said was so smart and brilliant. Of course, they're blown away by that, but they're not going to change their behaviors until you also drop those gems. And when you do, and somebody feels something in that amygdala and in their body, feeling it viscerally. And so if I'm working with someone that is in collecting too many things or promiscuous or what have you, the work is the same. It's about trying to get them to think and then think and then think and then feel and then feel and then feel, go deep. What is your soul saying? What's your heart saying? What are the epiphanies coming up? Shoot, sometimes people have spiritual awakenings. And that's beyond the scope of my training, but I'll just let them have a Jesus moment if they need to.
Yeah.
Couldn't hurt, Nope. But I think coming back and having that, like you said, it's an epiphany. It is an awakening in your soul. We talk about being woke on a social scale, but you can be woke in your own soul. Like, I finally see what I need to see. And it's been there all along. I just haven't been looking at it, so that's the tears that you get. And I think about, I am not going to cry on my own show, but I think about what you did for your son, Ellis. And I remember seeing this video maybe 6 months ago. There was a little girl, dark brown skin, and she had, what we would, she was getting her hair braided and getting it done and everything. And the lady that was doing her hair was filming.
The hairstylist, yeah.
And so the little girl says, "I'm so ugly." And the hairstylist is like, "What? Don't you ever say that about yourself. You are beautiful." And she grabbed the little girl's face. "Look at me. You are beautiful. I see beauty in you." And when she saw this, when I tell you, this little girl broke down like you wouldn't believe. Anybody I'm almost crying thinking about it.
I was chopping onions when I saw it.
Yeah. You know what? I'm glad I got my glasses on so y'all can't see the red eyes. But
I told you, Joy can do that. She can make us feel.
I was chopping onions.
This little girl was maybe 7 or 8 years old. She could not be double digits. And she already had in her mind, "I am ugly."
Yes.
And she expected, the way she could tell the way she said it, she expected her hairstylist to agree with her. which means somebody had been reinforcing that with her, maybe unintentionally, maybe saying that, well, you don't think the baby's listening, etc. But she got in her mind by 7 that I'm ugly. And then to have this woman that she respected, you know, her hairstylist, to tell her, you are beautiful. Don't you ever say that about yourself. You are a queen, all this stuff. And then the catharsis of those tears, you know, and I just think about all the different ways of each other. You know?
So that brings up a good point. Can somebody get a negative message from a family member that they're with all the time and get that one powerful moment that could change the course of their life? Could you know, so you're getting this negativity all day, every day, but then you have this one moment that is so powerful that could change the course. And just that second example, when we're talking about social justice, I think in America, it was always, police brutality was always kind of the dirty little secret that America had. But then camera phones started coming out and people started recording it. And then we had George Floyd. And so then we're all home with because of coronavirus. And then George Floyd happens. And the emotional piece of watching that man slowly die over, 8 minutes and 47 seconds changed a lot of perceptions. Not all of them, because some didn't, they just tuned it out. But it changed a lot of perceptions because it went from the, yeah, that's wrong, that's wrong, maybe that's not right, to, wow, it gave them that emotional experience watching it on TV. And then I think that kind of sparked this whole social justice, thing. So could it be just that one thing, that one person, that hairstylist that you saw that could change the course of your life because of her pouring into you in that singular moment?
Single moments can do a lot. They often create a certain level of dissonance, confusion, because we've been getting this negative message or this other message, and we go outside our house and we get another message. We might hang with that person a little bit. You might hang, but it can often mess us up or be a little confusing. But I think when you consistently get those positive messages outside and you're consistently getting those negative messages on the inside, let's say home, it still creates and I think a lot of people could attest to that they had home, which might have been very negative and very crazy and very chaotic and very dysfunctional. And then they had friends of choice and situations of choice that were somewhat better. And then they get into a relationship. And that's when the crossed wires might wreak havoc, because they might actually sabotage this love relationship or be part of sabotaging it because of some of the negative programming that was in their primary relationship. And it took a while for me to see that, because in a lot of instances, I'm a therapist, you come to me, I'm going to support you, I'm going to make you feel good, I'm going to find your strengths, I'm going to say good things about you, I'm going to make you feel, I'm going to do all those things. But when people have that negative programming in there, those are like demons.
Yep.
And we have to always be aware that they're there so we can exercise them and put them in the right context. Otherwise, they can mess things up going forward, because someone could be out there, they had a negative upbringing, low self-esteem, and then they're about to do something, and then they sabotage it right before someone hands them the diploma. They sabotage it right before they make the big team. So yes, outside events that are positive can do a lot, but it certainly helps statistically to have that be reinforced.
Gotcha.
I'll say something else about that outside force. Again, I'm going back to my first love. Hey, Aaron, if you're watching, still love you. But, this is going to sound bad, but understand that it will all work out, so it's all good. Aaron was the first person outside my family to tell me I was beautiful and tell me that he loved me. And that was it. That was something I had not heard from anybody else. And I remember the way he said it. I remember how I felt when it happened, all that kind of stuff. And at that point, you about to get everything I got, boy. I mean, it's it. It's it for me. Congratulations. Here is everything I have. But I think about, there are other, it was positive for me. And I know that I was lucky and blessed to have it be a positive experience for me. But there are other women, other men as well, who have had all that negativity at home. And then the first lighthouse in a dark ocean, the first point of light that they see, where somebody gives them that positive, they cling to it. They hang on to it. And unfortunately, you have You have lighthouses surrounded by rocks. You got that toxic person that can prey on that insecurity and start to make you, they tease you with it just enough. Oh, I love you if you would only do this, or you would be so pretty if you would just do that. This is why we can't be together because you want X, Y, Z, but I love, and so preying on that insecurity can be dangerous too, which is again why you need that positive reinforcement as early as possible, so you don't fall victim to the okie doke as you get older.
As a man, I would say, first of all, Joy, I'm so happy for you that you had a positive experience in your first sexual experience, because not many people do. I didn't. And it was more kind of I won't say it was pressure, it was influence, right? So you are a guy and you're doing this stereotypical guy things. And so I was later than most of my friends in losing my virginity, and I felt ashamed by that. And so therefore the first little something that was willing, I jumped on it. Had no feeling, no connection, emotional connection to that person whatsoever. It was just I've got to check this off my list so I can feel on par with my peer group. And I don't, now looking back on it, it's not the way you should be approaching, 30 years later. It's like, you shouldn't be approaching it from that mindset, because that can shape how you view sex and intercourse and intimacy later on and early on in your life. And so it separates sex, the act, from intimacy, the emotion. And so those kind of things can really be hard to overcome and correct if we continue those type of behaviors. So when we're talking about promiscuity and all the behaviors that go into it, that piece of it, if you start separating sex from intimacy, we can go down a dangerous path. Am I on the right path there, Doc? Or am I?
Absolutely. No.
Okay.
Great. I really think you were schooling me there, but I was listening to that. And that's really good stuff, because it's that separation. That separation that can lead to us perpetually doing something over and over again, trying to seek something that ain't contained in the way that we're doing it. So we're trying to seek connection through promiscuity, trying to fill that self-esteem bucket by seeking reinforcement and support from places that won't ever be able to give it consistently. So that's a great point to make, that our early experiences can often split the self. The self is a whole thing in the beginning, and through trauma, it gets split into pieces, and sometimes certain pieces of ourselves get exiled and are not fully functioning or not there, and the other parts of self are out there trying to seek something, and you're never going to get it the way you get it, or you're never going to be able to discern one reality from the other. And so negative experiences home lead to you seeking positive experiences, but only the players you're running into that are giving it in short supply. Right.
Further feeds that addictive behavior. Like, well, I thought I could get it with him. Well, okay, he don't call me no more. So this one says I'm cute, so I'm gonna go over here, and maybe. And I think about and sometimes it's not even just the promiscuity. It's the desire to, the societal pressure to be married, to for a lot of women. And I know this to be true for men as well. That society says you are 30X, you should be married by now. And I've seen people do some crazy things in pursuit of that societal pressure to tie the knot. People that they don't even like. Well, I guess I'll marry this person because she's here or he's here or he asked, and end up in some. And then they have to come to you, doctor, because they're gonna mess themselves up and they need some help.
Well, if you're just joining us, you're watching Thoughts and Moments Group Therapy right now with Dr. Fritz Gillette. So we're giving you a peek into what group therapy looks like and sounds like. This is a safe space. Anything that's said here is not going to go beyond these walls. We got to say that point. But Joy, to what your point, I think I like it too. You've got a car, and you only got 1 gallon of gas in it. You can drive it, but only for a short while. And you're going to have to fill it up again, but you only get 1 gallon. And so if you keep doing that, and so get a gallon, you're moving forward, but not in the pace that you need to be to get to your final destination. And so it can take you longer if you continue to only get that 1 gallon to fill up. You can use this in your practice, Doc. I'm giving that to you for free. That's free. But yeah, so it takes longer, but you need that person that can fill your tank, both physically, emotionally, spiritually, all the things that you need to get you to the destination of wholeness of self.
Plus, you've got to know what good gas is and what bad gas is.
Oh my
You
God.
know what I'm talking about. You better speak on it. You better speak on it.
Knocking and pinging.
I done had some cheap gas in my life, Doc. I'm trying to tell you.
And I mean, I'm playing with the imagery, so but I like the idea of, yes, filling up, but we also need to develop a certain. Oh my God, this is going to sound like a reusable fuel thing, but we also need to develop our own sustainable way of getting that fill, because if it's always going to be reliant upon things outside of ourselves, then we're always going to be needing to get that gas. And we need the what is that? We need some solar panels. We need some ways of filling our own cup.
Yeah.
And yes, it's nice to have when you get, you meet nice people and you get the nice good gas, and that's great. But you need your own way of fulfilling your own cup, because if you don't have your own way, then there's a certain level of desperation that we roam through life. And so literally these are the conversations, and imagery, like you just brought up, imagery drives the process.
Yeah.
Not logic, not just the thinking stuff, but it's the anecdotes, it's the story. That's why I was commenting on, like, when Joy is telling me an anecdote, I'm usually going to think, but I'm going to feel. And when I feel, it's going to stay with me.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I found when I was talking to my son, because I realized I was preaching, right? You're supposed to do this. This is how you do it. This is why you do it. Look at what your mother and I have done, blah, 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 blah. That's preaching. That's thinking. He's getting it, but he's not feeling it. It wasn't until I started sharing and telling him some of the mistakes and disappointments that I had in my life, and sharing in that, and then talking through how I got through it, was that I was able to really connect with him and get him to move beyond a space of it just being robotic, right? Sometimes kids can become robotic and they just do what their parents tell them, even though it's not what they don't feel it. And so you get them to feel it to where they're motivated by the within to do it without you standing over them, without you checking in. Are you doing your work? Are you doing what you're supposed to be doing? Not that prison ward kind of situation where it's like, I want to be successful for me and not just because my parents told me to be successful.
Mm-hmm. And what you mentioned in there when you said you talked to him about what you had gone through and how you overcame it, how you dealt with things, that's vulnerability. And again, we've got some issues with specifically Black men and vulnerability in our community around, I have a former client who struggled with showing physical affection to his sons, because he didn't grow up with it. He grew up thinking that men show affection by wrestling, punching each other in the stomach, playing the dozens. That's what his uncles and his family did for him or to him. But he recognized, again, there's that self-awareness, there's that epiphany. He recognized, I don't want my sons to grow up thinking that this is what affection looks like. And so even though he says sometimes his son will hug him and his first thought is, get off me. But he has to remember, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm going to hug my son like a grown man, but just that vulnerability, it can be life-changing for two people, because he's growing while he's teaching his son a different way to be,
Well, Doc, I guess that's the question. How can, in a society, in American society that was kind of founded upon, racism since 1619, and really built the whole system against, the primary target is Black man. I think Public Enemy's logo was perfect in terms of that target on the Black man, the nondescript Black man. And then we have these images in society about, the macho man being the ideal mate for women, that strong, silent type, that archetype that becomes parroted by women of all ethnicities about they want that strong, silent type in terms of a man. How then are we supposed to develop the skills to become vulnerable, to open up in a relationship when everything, images, society is saying vulnerability is weak in a man?
So there's people should be watching a show like this, because what you've talked about and the way that you're being towards your son is strong and masculine to me, and it's also vulnerability. Vulnerability is powerful, and we need role models and we need examples of that. We hopefully should see our art, our media, our industries show and showcase that aspect of manhood, those characters, because those are role models we all need to follow.
Absolutely. So let's take a quick break. I know our producer's been. let's take a quick break. We're gonna pay some bills, play some commercials, and then we'll come back and we'll wrap up with our guest, Dr. Fritz Gillette, here on Thoughts and Moments.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids' apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter. At Hampton Law, our primary goal is to provide non-traditional yet effective solutions and redefine the approach to client legal concerns. As your trusted legal advisor, we believe in sophisticated, personalized services that eliminate the confusion and complexity sometimes associated with legal matters. Our high standard for client care and concern, coupled with our extensive legal knowledge and skills, make Hampton Law a resource focused on the protection of the client's interest and overall goals. We value our clients and truly enjoy working with them. Visit thamptonlaw.com to conveniently schedule an appointment online. Tamika Hampton Esquire, 1631 Rock Springs Road, Suite 336, Apopka, Florida, 407-494-1471. thamptonlaw.com.
It gets worse. It gets worse.
I'm having a real good hair day that day.
And we are back. You're watching Thoughts and Moments right here on the Jericho Broadcast Network. We are getting deep. We've had some tears. We done broke down life barriers. We are doing some things right now, all because of our guest, Dr. Fritz Gillette. He's a psychologist, and he has really been helping us kind of tease through the sex self-esteem spectrum, because there's many stops along the way. There's not just one path to it, but there's a whole spectrum of promiscuity and self-esteem and how that all gets intertwined. So context is key. We're gonna, I'll keep banging that drum. Context is key. You got a person's context is going to shape how they see the world and how they interact with the world. So we got to make sure that we allow for everyone else's context. We can't just project our own onto them. So, Doc, do you have a book or something? Do we have a website? Something we need to promote?
I guarantee you somebody's going to try to find you after this show, because you've been dropping.
For real. You do a teleconference? And I know it's COVID out there in the streets, so you do a counseling?
Oh yeah, I've been sitting here all day. I gotta go to the bathroom, but I'm waiting for the show to be over because I'm having so much fun. And it's so important to be sitting down with people that can bring it too. And I spend a lot of my day listening to people. That the material that I get to keep it going comes from the people I'm sitting with. People do come to me because they think I have all the wisdom and I have the answers, and then I listen, and then I'm like, man, they put all the answers together for me. And then I give all the answers that they gave back to me. I give it back to them, and they go, "You're amazing." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay." But the power to change, the power to do better is within the individual. My job is just to listen and listen deeply. So I don't want to, prejudge. I don't want to have ideas about what's going to happen until you bring it. And it was been a pleasure to be on this program with you. You guys brought it, so I had fun. Thank you.
I'm so glad to have been able to share the screen with you today. Fritz, it's been an honor. I'm so glad you agreed to come on the show with us. But
absolutely.
If you have a website, though, where can we tell people to, I don't know if you're accepting clients, but still, where can we tell people to find you?
Well, I'm based in New York. I've got a number of websites. Probably the best one. Go to I'm a supervisor, the head of a practice in Manhattan. It's called Positive Psychology Associates, LLC. I think it's positivepsychnyc.com, positivepsychnyc.com. And that's where people can find my practice. And if you Google Fritz Gillette, there's only 2 of us in the world. I'm the one in New York. There's another one in Boston, but I think he's younger and doesn't do psychology. If you Google Fritz Gillette, you'll find all kinds of things out about me, hopefully good.
Well, we will definitely, I'm trying to put that into our chat room right now so they can find you. Positive.
I can spell what a Y.
Hush.
Positive.
Shut up. Positive Psych. There we go. PositivePsychNYC.com. So if I messed up a little bit, y'all hear it. Roll it back so you can hear it. Yeah.
Okay.
And,
Dr. Gillette, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
This was cathartic.
Right. We're going to replay this show like time and again. This is definitely in our top 3. And
I've been watching it myself. This would be like, it's like Dr. Gillette and the Cujo Goody.
I was just going to say, Cujo Goody from Goody Mob, and my life was made on that day.
Doctor, you got matched with Cujo Goody, Dr. Gillette. You are special with that.
From a true ATLian like myself, Goody Mob is it. And so to talk to one of them, I was excited. This has been a really good. And anybody that's still watching the show, that's hanging with us, share this episode with people that you think need to hear it. We talked about a lot of things, more than just promiscuity. We talked about a lot of different things that can lead to addictive behavior, not addiction personality disorder, but just like, searching for something to fill yourself and needing to understand that you've got to fill that up in yourself. Like you got
what do you say? Accessorize. We do a lot of things to accessorize. That was the word. That's the word of the day. Accessorize.
Right. You got to learn to be your own solar panel.
Absolutely. Oh man, you got nuggets. You got gold. You got gold today.
The nuggets are going around. They're going around.
It's a chain. It was the chain that did it. You had the nuggets.
The chain. I'm holding on to my gold.
All right, well, we're going to let you get out of here.
Let you get out, go to the bathroom, get some water, whatever. And thank you so much for joining us again. We'd love to have you back in the future when we'll bring you we're going to send you some guests. We're going to send you some clients. You're like, Dr. Moment said I can get a discount. You'd be like, no, that's not what. We don't do discounts. Not 2020.
Okay, so thank you once again, and everybody, it's 6:00. We're gonna go ahead and get out of here today. We're gonna push. The reason we are leaving on time today is at 7:30 today. You got an hour and a half to eat dinner, do whatever you got to do. At 7:30 today, I want you guys to go and if you follow Andre Dickens, for those of you in Atlanta, he's got it posted on his page. But there is a live feed featuring Dr. Ralph Warnock, who is one of the folks we're looking for Senate in Georgia. And he is giving a talk today at 7:30. There you go. Thank you. So Team Unity Georgia, it's a Divine Nine thing, but everybody can come. He is speaking today at 7:30, and that's the website right there. So just take a picture real quick. D9 for Warnock is the bit.ly site. So for those of you who went to the AUC, DJ Tron is going to be in the house. Grits and Jelly Butter is going to be in the house. DJ Pretty Tammy and Tish in the house. This is going to be, this is a rally. This is a virtual rally. 7:30. I highly suggest all of you go out and check it out. That's what I need y'all to do when we get out of here.
Yeah, it's some real crazy people that's running against Warnock and Ossoff. As D9, Warnock is really the more likable of the two, if I'm being completely honest about that. But I think that hopefully he's got enough pull to pull Ossoff in to the Senate so we can have a 50-50 split in the Senate. And just for those of you that don't know, that didn't pay attention in the civics class, if the Senate is locked at 50-50, the vice president casts the deciding vote. So I'm gonna let that sink in. Who the vice president-elect is. And so, not saying that she's just going to be ramming through radical liberal ideas, but she's going to be.
We need to get something done. I mean, quiet as kept. Congress has been ineffective for over 30 years. We've been slow.
Well, since Mr. McConnell became the majority leader, he's acted like the de facto president, to be honest with you. And when he doesn't want to get things done, even now with this new stimulus package that's backed by both Republicans and Democrats, and the president, he's like, nah.
Well, you know what they say. You know, they say the good die young, and that's why he's still with us. Anyway, we are going to not talk about politics other than
That's right.
7:30. Listen to Dr. Warnock.
January 20th, I'm gonna be so happy. I promise you, I'm gonna throw a COVID Zoom party on January 20th. After the inauguration, I'm throwing a COVID Zoom party. I'm saying it here first, announcing it here. Thoughts and Moments COVID Zoom party, January 20th. When Joe Biden and Kamala Harris get sworn in, COVID Zoom party, because ding dong, the witch is dead.
Yeah. We'll be waiting on that. We'll see what really happens. There might be another one lurking in the woods. But anyway, we are 3 minutes over now. We're going to get out of here. Go ahead, get your dinner, get something to eat. Come back to go back to their website, the D9 Unity. Thank you so much, Dr. Gillette, for being here today. And everybody, this is us signing off. We'll catch you next week, 5 p.m. You know where to find us. Thoughts and Moments.